A dangerous weather pattern is setting up, folks, and we are about to get walloped. In fact, some of us got walloped last night with severe weather. We talked about this yesterday, but North Dakota, South Dakota saw plenty of high winds, tornadoes, very large hail. More is in store as we go through the next few days. And the big heat is on, folks. We have red alerts, heat advisories up, and extreme heat warnings and watches posted for much of the central and eastern portion of the country. We're going to take a look at all of that, folks. Got a lot to get into and a short time to get there, so this is going to be fast paced. We're going to look at today's forecast, your weekend forecast, take a look at the big heat threat, see what's in store severe weather-wise, and we're going to wrap it up with the geologic outlook and the long-range outlook, folks. This is what happened yesterday in North and South Dakota. Look at this big spin. This is courtesy of Fox 35 down in Orlando. Noah Berggren, he posted this, but look at this. Big spin. This is a mesoscale convective vortex, and when you have extreme instability like we saw yesterday and shear aloft and a little bit of spin, you get this type of an environment where you can get these long derecho type wind events. 100+ mile per hour winds reported with this. Tornadoes, you can see this, the leading edge of this. We had a big tornado up in North Dakota as well. Destroyed homes. I think there might have even been some deaths, but you can scroll through X and see this. I found this on his Twitter or X page. Lots and lots of other video related to this. So you can see there it goes again coming through there. That is just insane. Tornado, big stovepipe tornado. We saw lots and lots of footage like this. So you can scroll X and take a look at all of that. In fact, here is the SPC Storm Reports page, and I don't know if you can see this or not, but all of these black squares and triangles up here in North Dakota saw hail greater than 2 inches and winds over 70 miles per hour. So hurricane force winds with this derecho that pushed through there. Tornadoes out in front. Like I said yesterday, watching that complex on the leading edge of that, supercells developed, spawning tornadoes, destroyed some homes, created a lot of damage there. And what other wind reports up around the Midwest too, but just a ton of 80, 90, even 100 mile per hour wind reports yesterday, folks. So it was not a great day. Today, we're looking at a severe threat here across the UP of Michigan, upper Wisconsin, is stretching into Watertown and up here in northern New York, around Buffalo, places like that. For parts of that MCS, that convective complex that's going to make it in there later today, and I'll show you that here on a radar in a second. There's your tornado threat, still possible, but not out of the, not like a widespread event or anything like that. 15% wind and hail as well are the primary threats today. Tomorrow, the threat here, let's move this up a little bit. The threat is really centered over Minnesota and places like Minneapolis, here in DeFargo, and down here central and eastern South Dakota, back into central Nebraska, with a marginal risk around that. This might get expanded a little bit tomorrow. We'll have to see how the day evolves and how the convection evolves, but a low pressure is taking shape. It's going to swing up into the northern part of North Dakota and Minnesota, drag a cold front. Eventually it's going to park up here and drag a cold front back down there, and you got that boundary, you got wind shear along it, got very, very high instability again. So definitely could see some tornadoes, particularly with supercells that develop along the track of the low, interacting with that warm front boundary. When you get those boundaries, you get tornadoes tracking along there. It enhances the low-level spin. Thunderstorms tracking along, you enhance that low-level spin, you potentially get tornadoes. Wind, another hatched area for significant wind gusts, over 70 miles per hour possible tomorrow. Hail as well, could see up to baseball size or a larger hail. I think the highest hail report yesterday was 3.6 inches. It's getting close to softball size. And looking out one more day, that low shifts on up into Canada, dragging that cold front back through the central plains. And so again, we're going to see a wind threat and a hail threat predominantly up here in the UP of Michigan, back through central Wisconsin, just in the northeastern tip of Iowa, folks. So that's what that looks like. Kind of some of the background features driving this. Of course, we've got this big ridge setting up in the center part of the country. This is the big story, folks. This is a big pattern change, and we're going to see troughing out west, big trough is going to get established, and it's going to act like a ninja and just sling star, those little stars that those ninjas throw. It's just shortwave after shortwave is ejecting out of this long wave trough that's stationary out here in the west. This big high pressure centered over the country, and the big ridging associated with that's going to keep us dry in the southeast predominantly. But look at this, as we going out through the day today into this evening, you have that trough kind of just meandering into the west coast. Going to be cool up here, maybe even see some snow in the higher elevations, but pieces of energy. You can see the big jet stream winds kind of flowing around this, or the jet energy flowing around the top of this ridge out here. And the pieces of energy are going to come through, enhance the shear, work on the instability at the surface. And that's what we're going to see, folks, as we go on out into this evening and then into the next couple of days. You can kind of see that maybe you get a little bit of a working in of that trough, so it kind of works through the central plains. But along this boundary is where we're going to find energy tracking. That's where we're going to see the threat of severe weather over the next several days, one after the other, and then it kind of rounds the top of the ridge and makes it right back in down. See, it kind of goes like this, right? It goes back into New England. So we're going to see remnants of those mesoscale convective systems enter New England and provide a severe weather threat there too. Instability, folks, man, it is already unstable. We're going to just increase that. Look at this. Again, we're looking at 3, 4, 5,000 joules of CAPE over this area. And these thunderstorms work into that, going to use that extreme energy and shear aloft to organize thunderstorms at the surface, and you get these bow echoes and line segments and things like that, and supercells, at least initially, tracking along boundaries. So you can see all hazards, tornadoes, large hail, significant winds when you have these extreme instability regimes. You can see that just explode through the afternoon and evening over Minnesota. Look, it gets black. I mean, that's crazy, crazy strong instability there, and it just persists into the evening hours and doesn't really wane all that much. Just a lot of warmth, a lot of unstable air, a lot of cooling aloft, and it just, again, Sunday afternoon, same sort of setup. So we're going to see plenty of instability, more so today than tomorrow, but still, that's what we're looking at in terms of a severe weather threat. So looking at today and understanding what's going on out there today, you can already see cloud cover across the northern tier. And look here, this little thunderstorm complex is actually diminished in size. It's moving this way. It's moving toward the Great Lakes. It's going to get into New York later today, and you'll start to see those fire back up as the afternoon heating takes over. A lot of fog here in North Carolina and the eastern areas. That'll burn off as the day goes on, but much of the rest of the country under clear skies, expecting sunshine and hot temperatures for much of the nation. There's your radar with these systems tracking kind of along the apex of that ridge. And you can see the little remnants of that system moving through Minnesota, up here through the UP of Michigan, down through Wisconsin. We're seeing thunderstorms already activate there. So that's our threat area for today over here in parts of the Northeast. Air quality, folks, not too bad out there. Oh, there we go. Let's do that. Let's drag this up a little bit so we can see it. Around Cincinnati up into Milwaukee and places just east of Chicago, you're looking at a potential air quality over in Denver as well. But everybody else pretty good. This is just light, not anything too much to worry about. But where you see orange, if you're sensitive to that, kind of stay indoors and stay out of it. Winds, pretty windy up and down the Great Lakes, back through the plains, back over into the Four Corners region, the Intermountain West. We're seeing gusty winds, 30 miles per hour, maybe even 40 in spots. Going to be a nice, calm day. It wasn't too windy yesterday here in the southeast, and it looks like that's going to be the same today. When you get under those ridges, air kind of stagnates a bit, and you don't get a lot of, windy conditions. Typically, we're going to see that on the boundaries, and that's what we're seeing. And here's the surface map, so you can see little waves tracking along this boundary that sets up through the Great Lakes in the Northeast today. There's your severe threat. Potentially thunderstorms anywhere in New England across the northern tier until you get back into where the trough is. Cooler temperatures, snow in the higher elevations out here in the Rockies, the Bitterroots, the Cascades, Olympics, and then a little air quality that we're showing back toward this area over here in the Four Corners region. Maybe a scattered shower or two along the southeast coast, and then potentially up into Alabama and the Tennessee Valley for where this boundary is. But we're not looking at a washout for sure. Tomorrow, much the same regime. Low pressure takes over, moves into Minneapolis, bringing a severe weather threat. Cold front back here, still chilly in the northwest, rainy and unsettled conditions along the border. You get on in here to the warmer regime, you're going to see showers and thunderstorms potentially. A couple of scattered storms, excuse me, in the southeast, but nothing to get too worried about there. High temperatures going up, 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 up from the basically from the north or central plains back into the southwest. Everywhere east of that, we're going to see temperatures rising, with the exception maybe of the northeast, going to oscillate up there a little bit. But central plains today bearing the brunt of the heat. Temperatures up in the 100s, 50s and 60s, 30s and 20s in the higher elevations. But out here in the northwest, cooler, 90s everywhere else along the for the rest of the country, essentially, except the desert southwest, going to be warm out there. Tomorrow, still got a couple of hundreds out here, but it's going to back off a little bit in the plains, cooler in the northwest quadrant of the country. But look at this, mid 90s, making it into the Great Lakes, up into New England, up here in, got some folks watching from New Jersey. We're going to get hot up there this week, folks. We're going to even push 100 in spots, but look at this, New England, Boston, you're at 93, Richmond in the mid 90s, Raleigh 95. Actually, Raleigh will probably be 120 because they put the temperature sensor right on the tarmac. Jacksonville 95, Houston 93, Kansas City in the low 90s. So we're looking at a hot regime setting up, folks. And here is the alert map. Look at all this red, big red flag warnings where it's windy and dry, extreme heat warnings for temperatures going up into the upper 90s to around 100 with high humidity, heat advisories up everywhere along the Mississippi Valley in the northeast. Extreme heat watches up, extreme heat warnings up. We're going to see more of that expand into the southeast. Winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories up here. We can see several inches of snow falling in the higher elevations. San Joaquin Valley, again, red flag out here, so be careful, don't burn anything there. But that is an ugly map, folks. Looking at the precipitation over the next few days, we kind of saw a hint of it already, but this afternoon there's that complex. Watch it as it goes through the northeast. We'll start to see showers and thunderstorms kind of coming down on the other side of that ridge. There it is, boom, right into New England. There you go. You getting, picking up showers in Burlington, Vermont, over into Caribou, Maine. Eventually you're going to get all through Maine and then into the western portion and northern portions of New York. More rain and unsettled weather across the north, scattered showers today. And then tomorrow, look at this. Here's that low pressure moving up into into Minnesota. You can see along Canada's taking the brunt of this, but you're going to see northeast North Dakota and northern Minnesota is going to be our primary threat for tornadoes and strong winds and large hail, but the threat's going to exist back down through Nebraska too, so you can kind of watch a little bit and see a little bit of how that plays out. See, there's that front dragging through, sparking some showers and thunderstorms. May get a complex or two that works through. Not everybody's going to get severe weather, but certainly where thunderstorms fire up, they're doing so in an environment that is unstable and not conducive to calm little everyday afternoon showers and thunderstorms. These are going to be big boomers. So pay attention up there. That threat continues to persist into Monday afternoon. You see that, and Tuesday, there's that boundary, the trough out west, the boundary along, running kind of right along that. So it kind of goes something like this. That's terrible, but you get the idea. The storms are tracking along this boundary here. And so that's what we're going to watch for in terms of the main area for precipitation until we get way on out. This is Tuesday. Maybe we'll see a couple of spokes of energy get trapped under the ridge. If we can see that, then we'll get some strong thunderstorms out of those. But the primary area is going to be the ring around that ridge, maybe eventually working into the south. But there's going to be a cap on the atmosphere for a large portion of the central and eastern U.S., meaning it's warm aloft. Thunderstorms like to develop when it's cool aloft. And so we've got this big ridge that's keeping everything warm. So that's what we're looking at over the coming week. Here's your pattern. We've been looking at this last couple of days. Ugly pattern. Ridge, trough, ridge. And so we've got a 597 decameter ridge, almost approaching 600. That is big time. That is a big time signal for heat. This is Monday. If we go on out through Monday, Tuesday, finally get back soft in 594, but the colors are still there, so you know that it's going to be hot. And we get on into next Friday, still the center of the ridge over the southeast. We're not looking for any cooling anytime soon in the eastern portion of the country, not until potentially, and by the way, this is the ensemble mean for the European. So this is not one operational model, right? I'm showing you a good, reliable model, an ensemble mean from the European. And so we finally get a little troughing as we get out to the beginning of July, but still it may take that long before we start to see the temperatures back off. Look at this. So we going out here. And we're really looking at precipitation in 24-hour increments. It gives you an idea by the time we get into next Thursday where the big arc of the precipitation, and for the most part, will be. And that is from the desert southwest here, just east of there, up into the Great Lakes, into New England. That's the main area of focus for precipitation until you get way on out here in time and you start to lose that signal a little bit. But that's what we're looking at, folks. Temperatures, oh my goodness, as we go on out, high temperature, showed you this yesterday, but we're going to look at it again today. High temperatures on Monday, 102 up here in New Jersey, close to Atlantic City, hundreds back down into the Piedmont of the Carolinas. And then very, very warm everywhere else, 80s and mid to upper 90s. Tuesday afternoon, it gets worse and worse along the eastern seaboard, maybe get a little bit of relief up here in the upper Midwest, worse and worse in the Northeast as well. Still bad on Wednesday for highs, hundreds everywhere in the Southeast, mid upper 90s for most of the rest of the East. And with the exception of the Northeast and the Great Lakes finally cooling off a little bit, but not so much here on Thursday in the Southeast. Hundreds again, and just looks like a parking lot. This is going to melt your shoes if you walk down the asphalt, folks. Again, day after day after day of hundreds. Friday, we're still in the hundreds. Saturday, Sunday, I've looked, I'm not going to show it, but trust me, it's warm Saturday and Sunday too. We finally start to back off a little bit into next week, if this model is right, and I think it is. And I hate to leave our friends out west. Didn't show these yesterday, but I'm going to show you the high temperatures as we go on out. So these are highs for Monday. You can see starting to warm up here in the Pacific Northwest a little bit, 70s and 80s, 70s across the plains down into the Rocky Mountains. In the Four Corners region, we're getting back up into the hundreds in the desert Southwest. There is your Tuesday highs, hotter and hotter out here too. Even though there's a trough, it's still going to be hot, particularly in the valley, San Joaquin Valley down in the desert Southwest. There are your Wednesday highs, still warm across everywhere except for the Pacific, up in Washington along the coastal areas. You're going to be okay there. But look at this heat back here in the southern plains as well. And as that trough continues to work in, you're going to see that's where the cooler temperatures are, as that trough kind of migrates over here. We got another piece of energy coming in as well, but hot in the desert Southwest, back into the 105, 110 range. And as we get on out into Friday, that's what we're looking at too, just getting hotter and hotter out here again. So full continental ridge that's going to take over and provide plenty of heat. So 8 to 14, I'm looking way out here. This is the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook. Above normal, as you saw on that map. It's going to get hot out here in the Northwest and hot in the east. Below normal, the only place we're looking at below normal temperatures are in the 8 to 14. Now this is June the 28th through July the 4th, okay? So keep that in mind. But up here in the Great Lakes down in the Southwest, we're looking at a signal for below normal, mixed in Alaska and above generally in Hawaii. Precipitation outlook above out here. So by the time we get into the 8 to 14 day time frame, maybe the ridge intensity diminishes enough to where we'll start to see scattered showers and thunderstorms pop back up out here, but certainly not looking at a lot of precipitation in the west, unfortunately, above in Hawaii and Alaska. Folks, that's the sensible weather. Looking at space weather, not all that much to pay attention to right now. Well, there's plenty to pay attention to, but nothing to really write home about in terms of impacts on us. We had that big X-class solar flare the other day. Nothing since then. A little, basically almost an M-class flare, but it's not really doing anything. There's no geomagnetic problem going on here, so we're not in storm conditions. Here's the sun. See this big trans-equatorial coronal hole. As it gets toward us, it'll shoot out, we're going to see a plasma stream, and density will pick up, so solar winds coming out of this. We're watching filaments. We're watching sunspots, and you can actually see, maybe if this is on the coronagraph, see there's a filament eruption there, but not pointed toward Earth, so nothing major there. Volcanic activity still, same 4 areas we've been watching. Nothing new on the volcano front or the earthquake front either. Not a lot going on, just a couple little minor shakes here and there. Nobody's really feeling anything there. Moon data, moon's going down 20%, down toward new moon phase on June the 25th. And here is your day and night map. They keep putting the moon for some reason here in with the sunshine. I don't know how they're doing that. I would put it over here. That's where it was the other day. That's where it should be, folks, because we're all in sunlight. It is bright and sunny, going up to 90 something here in Morganton over the next few days, probably get into the 80s this afternoon. But that is it for today, folks. That's the show. I hope you all have a wonderful day. I probably won't do a long video today, but my son Cold Drizzle is home with me. We'll do a short, certainly keep you up to date on what's going on. I'll be back with a full episode of Cold Rain's Weather World on Monday. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. This is what we do. We cover cover all of this, a little bit more detail too on some of these events too, when I have a little bit more time, and we do a weather IQ question every day. But we cover the whole range of weather, from geological to space to your sensible daily forecast. So folks, have a great weekend, and we will see you soon.